gonna record this briefly for our folks at home. Sag guten Morgen. Another one more time. Guten Morgen. Dankeschön. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna pull it up on here. We're looking at the timeline of Seite 44 from Die Deutschen. Let's go through and get some of these out of the way, and then I'll ask you one or two questions from the part where it says, was wissen Sie, was meinen Sie? So we've been working up to der Totentanz. Let's remind ourselves what that compound noun means. What's a Tanz? A dance. And who are die Toten? The dead. Yeah. Here we see, starting with 1226, 1226, Reichsfreiheit für Städte, zum Beispiel Lübeck. Lübeck ist eine Stadt und in 1226 hatten sie Reichsfreiheit. Remember, what's a Reich? Empire. What's Freiheit? Freedom. They have Imperial Freedom for cities. For example, Lübeck. We talked briefly about what that means. What's it mean to have Imperial Freedom? You are only answerable to the emperor. So you might have your city within a kingdom with a king, right? And in that kingdom, you might even be in a duchy, which has land controlled by a duke. And within that duchy, there might be counties controlled by counts. And even within those counties, you might have other lesser nobles who own land and demand things from the people living there with obligations in return. But if you are in the city and you are within the walls of that city, you're answerable then only to whom? The emperor, der Kaiser. That's a pretty big deal. Before that, if you lived in the town next door, which was within a county and a duchy and a kingdom, you have a count, a duke, a king, and then you can go and talk to the emperor. But if you are within the city jurisdiction, that's going to have a lot of immediacy on who's got your back if there's a dispute with another city, if you have your own personal issue that most people aren't going to be able to go and just talk to the emperor. But the city government could petition the emperor for things like help or tax law changes, things like that. It's a big deal, and we're starting to see that in 1226. Why would the emperor do something like that? That's what we'll talk about. 1291, 1291, we have a little bit about Schweizer. Where's the Schweiz? Swiss, yeah, Switzerland. Eidgenossenschaft, that means an oath of loyalty. What we see happening in Switzerland at just about 1300 are different cantons, and cantons are small organized groups. Like, you could think of them like counties within Switzerland, like Uri, Schwyz, and Unterwalden. They swear an oath to protect each other. And your book talks for about a paragraph about why Switzerland is Switzerland and not just another part of Deutschland or Frankreich or Italian or Österreich would have been the most likely, that Switzerland would have just been another chunk of Austria. It goes all the way back to the 1300s, the late 1200s, that Switzerland establishes something of a national identity. Okay, moving on. In 1348 haben wir Gründung. Gründung is founding. What's founded? Universität. We got a nice cognate. Where is Prague? In Czech Republic today. At the time, it was in the Duchy of Bohemia. During the 1300s, that would have been a largely a mix of Slavic and German language and ethnic groups. Prague has a long-standing German identity, which yeah, changed dramatically after World War II. In 1356, Goldene Bull, Grundgesetz des Reiches, we see a golden bull. A bull is anything the Pope says that he wants to establish as law. We have essentially a constitution of the empire. We're not going to dive deep into that because it gets pretty esoteric. Yeah, Fraga. Did the emperor have to listen to the Pope, or did the Pope have to listen to the emperor? That is a fantastic question, and the answer is it depends. It depends on who's the Pope. It depends on who's the emperor. It depends on when and who has what power at the time. That is going to be the struggle during the entirety of the Holy Roman Empire, is who's more in charge. Let's see. What we had after the fall of the Roman Empire was we still had a bishop in Rome. That's what the Pope is. The Pope is the Bishop of Rome. For a few hundred years, and his power was relatively weak. Although he did have a lot of land to command, a lot of spiritual authority. The Bishop of Rome at the time of Charlemagne gave up some of that in order to increase his political power, and then set off another few hundred years of conflict. So that's usually how history works, is we have a decision made pragmatically at the time that influences generations after that. Okay, 1349, Pest, Schwarzer Tod, plague, Schwarzer Tod, Black Death, in Deutschland und vielen Teilen Europas. We'll talk about how that's going to affect society. This is maybe a different year than others. If we look around the room, yeah. Well, I've talked about the Black Death. I've talked about the plague a lot. I don't know that when I was in high school, it really had a meaningful, impact on me. I feel like this year, though, we might make some connections. Friede von Stralsund, Sieg der Hanse über Dänemark, Höhepunkt ihrer Macht. What we see is we're going to talk about the Hanseatic League, these groups of mostly seafaring cities that band together to kick butt and fix prices. They have their high point of power in the late 1300s. They lose a lot of their power and influence as other nations take to the sea. For example, Spain, Italy, Italian states, Portugal, France, England, yeah. Schlacht beim Sempach, Sieg der Schweizer Eidgenossen über das Ritterheer Österreichs. In 1386, a bunch of Swiss kick Austria's butt at a major battle. How do they do it? They bring long pointy sticks to a horse fight. You've seen this in movies, right? They're outnumbered. The other side's got all the heavy cavalry, and they're going to charge right into them. But wait, at the last minute, pointy sticks. You see it in like Braveheart and in other movies. That's basically what the Swiss did here, and Austria stopped trying to take them over. And then 1471, Albrecht Dürer. Have you heard of this guy? Where is he? He's over there. Danny, where's he from? Dankeschön. Have you been to his house? Oh man, I'd love to go to his house. Hopefully we'll be in Nuremberg for about 3 hours, some of us this summer. And I want to see if we can take a quick dip into Albrecht Dürer's house. We're going to talk about him when we get to our art unit this year. Okay, let's look at these study questions with our remaining 2-3 minutes. Wann gründet man eine neue Stadt? Why, when and how and why would we found a new city? What conditions do we need? Yeah. Can we just go and found a new city? Why? Casey says no. What, by whom? Which government? Both the federal and state would tell us you can't make a city. What would we need first? Well, no, we couldn't just all, like, the 30 of us couldn't just go plop down somewhere and say we're a city now. We'd need to first do what? Yeah, we would need sovereignty over the area. We would need legitimacy. We'd also probably need to purchase the land so that we'd have some sort of jurisdiction over it. Yeah, I didn't know that. Right, that was when was Indianola founded?
1840.
Yeah, like 1848, 49. Yeah. So we'll look into why some of these cities, this time period, 1200 to 1500, we see an explosion of cities. So what conditions? The main point of a city is commerce and trade and protection. We'll get into the conditions around that tomorrow.
Each state has its own rules about making a new city, and apparently you need 51% of the voters within the area to